Peace and blessings, family. I hope that y'all can hear me okay, but if not, just put your earbuds in because I want to talk to y'all today about how to leave a situation that you don't know how to leave. You know, how to leave a situation that it feels like you can't leave, or how to separate from something that it feels like you just can't separate yourself from. And that can go any way you want to take it. But I don't know. I wanted to share an experience that I had with you guys. Experience that I had. I want to share it with y'all. And this happened to me I would say, well, it don't matter when it happened. But it happened some time ago. And what it was I feel like I'm stalling. Like what had happened was, okay, I'm just gonna say it. Okay. I was in a marriage it was a marriage legally, but spiritually it felt like more than that. It kind of felt like we were, maybe we'd known each other in past lives, or we were soulmates. I felt very bonded to him. I felt very tied to him. And it was the kind of situation where when it was good, it felt like the world was all right. Like, it felt like I could not possibly imagine living, existing on a day-to-day basis without that person, especially since we had kids and, our life was ours. It wasn't just my life, it was ours. And it reminded me of that. I would always think about that part I don't know if y'all have ever seen Jerry Maguire, but the part where Cuba Gooding Jr. gets hurt on the football field and Regina King calls his agent and she says, I'm so sorry for everything that I said about your job, but you just need to get him back to me because my whole life is his family and it doesn't work without him. And I remember when she said that in the movie, it just like touched something in me, because that is very much how I felt. Like, life just doesn't work without him. I don't know how to do that. And if I diagnose myself, I guess you could say I was a codependent. But shit, when you in it, you in it. And I was in it. And it was very difficult, even though there was, when it wasn't good, it was terrible and it was scary and it made me feel like I shouldn't be in this situation. But it was just so hard to hold that knowing when things were good. And I think oftentimes that's what happens in situations that we need to leave, is that it's not all bad all the time. If it was all bad all the time, it would be easy to leave. The difficulty comes in when sometimes you really do want to be there. You really do want it with all your heart. And when it's good, it's great, and when it's bad, it's terrible. So I've been in that situation. I know my mom's been in that situation. I know my stepmom's been in that situation. I know both my sisters have been in that situation. We be in that shit. And it's not, I feel like it's not something that we really talk about, because you start to feel stupid. Because if it's bad and you complain, and some of the things when it's bad is so bad that if you told anybody, they would say, why the fuck are you putting up with that? But you put up with it because you know that when it's good, it's great, or it's comfortable. This is your life, this is your home, this is where you at, for better or for worse. Maybe that's why they put that in marriage vows, because it's like, this is where I'm gonna be, so saying that to say one thing, so I'm not in that marriage anymore. And so now that I've been out of it for some time, spiritually and legally, I feel like I can share what ultimately helped me get out of it. And it took a long time, okay? But I'm going to share with you what I learned, okay? What I learned is that the only way to leave and stay gone and stop going back on yourself, on your decision, is to, it's almost like, it's like a, I don't know if it's a Japanese art, or I think it's the Japanese art, but it's called Wu Wei. It's just called like the way, like the way of going with the flow instead of going against the flow. But then you don't allow, okay, let me just go, okay, I feel like I'm stalling. Okay, you will notice in relationships that are toxic that usually there's fluctuations in the relationship, meaning that nigga might break up with you randomly. He might say, like, you know what, in the middle of a fight, he might be like, you know what, we just shouldn't do this. And this what happened with me. You know, my ex would be like, we just shouldn't do this, we just shouldn't be together, right? And of course, in that moment, that feels threatening, right? That feels scary. So you automatically like push against that force and you say, yes, we should be together. And this is why we should keep having this argument, because we're trying to figure it out. Like, I feel like people know, and it's not always just the dudes in a relationship, but people know how to push each other's buttons almost to like make sure that that person needs them or will cling to, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. To make, like, people know how to say something to make the other person want to cling to them. And it's usually like to push them away. So you run so somebody will chase you, right? What I had to start doing in my relationship was just not doing that. Like, if he said, it got to the point where if he said, okay, well, we just shouldn't do this, I would say, okay. Right? And then later, when he's like, when he wants to make up, and he expects you to make up, you just say, no, I agreed with you. We shouldn't do this. You know? And that's the fuck it. And usually when you get to that point, when people get to that point, when they're done like that and they're able to be cold like that, it's because, like, literally everything in the relationship has happened to help you know that you really shouldn't be doing this. And the only reason that you're still there is because you're comfortable. Those are the people that I'm talking to, okay? If you know that you're better off not in that situation, but it's just comfort that keeps you there, then this is for you. And I'm saying this is how you get out of it, is you just, like, every little inch that the relationship moves apart, you don't close the gap. You don't chase. You just allow it to widen. You allow you and that person to just get further and further apart. And I promise you, it's just like nature will take its course and just keep widening that gap. Because if you've gotten to the point that you know it's not good for you, if you know it's toxic, then I feel like it's not just you who feels that way. It's God feels that way, your ancestors feel that way, people in your life feel that way. So there's momentum behind allowing this thing to end without having to force it. Because when it's like, when you force it, there's the resistance, and then it just makes the whole process take longer. So you just got to kind of learn how to go with the flow. If this doesn't make sense, maybe this video just isn't for you. You know how they say, if it resonate, let it resonate. You know, if it don't apply, let it fly. Don't force it to fit if this doesn't fit your situation. But I just know, like, this is something that it's a very specific lesson that I know that God taught me, and I know when God does that, it's not just meant for me, it's meant for me to also share. So whoever I'm sharing this with, if it's for you, it's for you. So I will also share a personal story with you to kind of illustrate what I mean. So there was this one particular time where I did exactly what I'm saying, where you know, there was a bad fight, and he said, like, you know, we just shouldn't be together. We should just end this. We'll just figure things out. You know how people start being like, we'll figure it out with the kids, and you know, we'll just get a divorce and we ain't got to worry about this no more. You know, just to get you to be like, no, how will I ever, no, you know, all that shit. And so this particular time, I just said, you know what, I think you're right. I think we should just let it, I think you're right. And I meant it. And later that day, or maybe it was, yeah, it was late, it was like later, so maybe this happened, maybe the next day, like the next day evening, he wanted to make up, he wanted to talk, and I was like, no, you know, no. I think we should leave it the way we left it. I think it should be over. And he took it really hard, okay? Like, he took it really hard. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cover the camera. So we got really loud, and there was lots of yelling. And I didn't expect this memory to be this hard to go into, actually. Ooh. So yeah, he was really loud. There was lots of yelling, and like, he never hit me, but like, he'll punch the walls, he'll throw things. So I had it was like really late at night, and the kids were asleep, and so I stepped outside, because I'll do that. I'll just go for a walk, even if I'm barefoot. Like, if it's tense, I'll just do what I got to do to get the fuck out. So I went outside, and so he came outside, and I remember he was like talking to me, and when I still wouldn't acquiesce and say, okay, yeah, we should get back together. We should make it work. And by this point, I mean, we had been together for like a good 11 years, maybe 10 or 11 years. So it was a while. And so when I just was like, nah, it should really be over. I remember he was drinking a beer, and I guess the bottle was mostly empty. And so he kind of started talking to himself, like, I knew you was gonna do this shit to me. And he just got really upset. But I remember there was something that he said, and when he said it, he threw the bottle at the general direction of my head, in my, you know, of me. And it's like smashed on the wall behind me. And there was glass everywhere. And I remember I was barefoot. And I was like, wow, that's okay. So I walked off. I was like, no, I'm not about to do this with you. So I just, you know, started walking. And I remember he got in the car. Or maybe I like went for a walk. All I know is like I was coming back towards the house, and he got in his car and kind of started driving towards me. And I was on the side of the road, and when he just was about to pass me, he like gunned the motor and then went past me. And it scared me, because I knew he was upset. He had just thrown a bottle at me, and I felt like this nigga might really fucking hit me. He might be so mad that he hit me, you know? Sometimes people do get super mad and they snap. And anyway, so we didn't talk no more that night. I went in the house. Eventually he came in the house, and I think a couple days later, you know, we didn't really talk the next day. But it's hard when you have kids with somebody, because you have to talk to them. Even if you don't talk directly to them, you just have to deal with them, and you don't want to alarm the children. And it's not like I was to the point where I was just gonna fucking pack my shit and leave. You know, it wasn't like he didn't touch me. You know, it's weird, the type of logic that you start having with yourself. So I didn't do anything. I just didn't go back on what I said, right? I just held the line. And so we just didn't really talk. A couple days later, we started talking, but then he was being like really nice and really sweet and really understanding, and just kind of being like, you know, I get it. I get why you had to do this. I get why you want to stay broken up, and, you know, if that's what you need, you know, just like saying all the right things. And he was being really sweet. And so, like I said, when it's great, it's great. This is the type of shit where it's like you start to you start to forget. You start to forget what just happened from day to day, because it's really hard to hold those two realities in your head at the same time. That on one hand, this is the best person that I know, and on the other hand, this is the worst person that I know. And also, it's hard too, because nobody's the best and nobody's the worst, and you start to get these like dramatic descriptions of what reality is, and it's just confusing and it's distorting, and you got to get the fuck out of there because you can't see straight. So that happened. I like slipped in my mind, you know, I was thinking like, he's so sweet. Like, we have such a beautiful family. We love each other so much. Why am I doing this? What's wrong with me? Why am I doing this? Why do I feel like I need to get away from him? Why do I feel uncomfortable? Like not in that moment I didn't feel uncomfortable. In that moment I felt great, but it got to the point that when I felt that way, even that had become a red flag. Like, if I feel so good now, why did just a couple of nights ago I say I can't do this anymore? Like, what is it? What? Because it's just, I don't know. Anyway, I'm saying all that to say, you know, this is the point when I was really into tarot. So I had this one deck that I would use for you know, just for me to ask certain questions. And I remember asking, what is it? Like, why can't I be with him, basically, is what I was trying to ask. Like, why do I keep feeling like I have to allow us to break up? Like, why don't I want to go back like I normally go back? Like, what is it? And I know that's probably a dumbass question after everything I just told y'all, but I really genuinely couldn't understand why I couldn't just have my family and why we couldn't just be together. So the card that I pulled was this card that at this time my mom had passed away, but there was this one card that had her middle name on it. So her middle name is Diane, and this card was called Diana, and so it made me think of my mom. And then at the message on the card said, "Go outside," and I was like, why? but I'm obedient, right? I was at the point in my walk with God and everything that, like, even if shit don't make sense to me, I'ma do it. So when I got the card that said go outside, I went outside, and I just felt led to like walk around to the carport where you know, like by the trash cans kind of, and I was like, what? Like, why am I standing here? And then I felt a voice be like, look down. And I looked down, and that same glass from a couple of nights before was at my feet. And I felt my mama be like, nigga, that's why. That's why. Because what is that? Why are you dealing with that? Why are you putting up with that? Why are you putting up with someone even potentially hurting you, no matter how much they say they love you? Like, anyway, it was like I remembered, like, oh yeah, that shit really did happen. Because I promise you, in just a day and a half, I forgot. Or it's like, it doesn't matter. It's the past. It's just how things are. Something like that probably won't happen again for a month or two. Like, we're good. We're in love. You know, like, all of that shit. It was so easy to just let it be another day. But anyway, that didn't happen. Since that day, I never took a step backwards into that relationship. I always maintained, like, no, we're not together. And we still had to live together. We still had to work together. We still had to do a lot together. But one thing we didn't do was be together, because I was like, no. And it was all these other gradual things that happened, you know, like, I don't want to go into it, but I just gradually started separating myself from him. And I will say that, like, anything that I took away, if you don't hear nothing else from this message, hear this. Anything that I took away from that point, I never gave it back. If you're in a situation where you feel like you can't leave because it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you just got to get to the point that anything you take, you stop giving it back. And eventually, you will baby step your ass up out that shit. It could be very slow. No judgment. It's hard to separate from people. I don't know who this message is for. It was just on my heart to say it. It's hard. I know that it's hard, but baby steps. Whatever you take away, okay, you just don't give it back. It's just like that story in the Bible when they were leaving Sodom and Gomorrah and Lot's wife. All the fuck she had to do was just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Don't go back, don't look back. Don't go back, don't look back. That's all she had to do. She couldn't do it. She looked back and she turned into a pillar of salt. And I think that's what that story is trying to say, is like, if God is leading you out of a situation, if a situation is so bad, you've gotten so, like mine was, like literally this nigga threw a bottle at my head. You know what I'm saying? If a situation is that bad and you have had so many signs that it's that bad, I'm not talking to nobody that ain't got no signs. Don't make it apply if it's not for you. I'm talking to somebody that knows, that has gotten signs, that it's bad, that it's that bad. Okay, I'm not saying run out the door tomorrow. I'm saying if you stop talking to a motherfucker, don't start back. You know what I'm saying? If you stop smoking with somebody, don't start back. It's just don't go back. Just let it peter out. Let it fizzle. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Whoever it's for, that's who it's for. I hope this message helped you. Thanks for listening. Peace.